Hello and welcome viewers, I'm Pia and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the headlines this hour. US and Russia have found no compromise on the key territorial concessions issue amidst talks in Moscow. Kremlin has stated that the talks with the US are useful, but a lot of work is ahead in the path to peace. Russian President Vladimir Putin is all set to visit India. He is to visit from the 4th of December to the 5th for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. Talks are likely to focus on defense cooperation and the civil nuclear sector. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has stated that unlimited support for Ukraine is unrealistic, stressing for measured assistance. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has added that the US will continue sending weapons if Europe contributes as well. French President Emmanuel Macron has arrived in China. He's expected to exert pressure on his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping to help secure a ceasefire in Ukraine and discuss trade relations as well. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has stated that the United States has only just begun targeting alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean, defending strikes amid criticism. Pentagon insists that operations are legal under US and international law. US President Donald Trump has stated that he held a very productive phone conversation with Brazilian President Lula da Silva, discussing trade, sanctions and joint efforts against organized crime as both leaders seek to deepen economic cooperation and strategic ties. The Trump administration has halted immigration applications from nationals of 19 countries already facing US travel restrictions, with USCIS stating that processing delays are necessary to protect national security. Death toll from the deadly high-rise apartment fire has climbed to 159, with 31 people reported missing in Hong Kong. The officials have stated that 6 more people have been arrested in this case. Well, viewers, those are the headlines, and our top focus: what's taking place in the Middle East. We're learning that Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants have recovered a body in Gaza's Beit, Lahiya, which is supposed to be handed over to Israel. Hamas has stated that it is going to hand over hostage's body after Israeli forensic services concluded that remains returned a day earlier were not from one of the 2 final deceased hostages. The handover of the last 2 hostages' bodies in Gaza would complete a key condition of the initial part of US President Donald Trump's plan to end the war. The group found the body after it had conducted a search in northern Gaza along with a team from the Red Cross as well. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Jordan Cope, Middle East Affairs expert, joining us from Dallas. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. There are 2 bodies that are still slated to be returned by Hamas to Israel. A lot of analysts have pointed out that that Hamas is trying to delay this entire process so as to ensure that the second phase, which calls for its disarmament, is not implemented. Do you concur with these views?
I don't think the delay is simply about that, but rather Hamas throughout this war has suffered significant blows. And in recent days, there have been videos posted online by militias taking advantage of Hamas's weakness and actually recording some of their members surrendering to their militia. Hamas is at a weak point, and what Hamas ultimately wants right now is to project strength. And by ultimately trying to convey that it has the upper hand in terms of enforcement of the ceasefire provisions, it maintains and helps preserve its legitimacy as the guardian over the Gaza Strip, however perverse its leadership might be. And so also important, I think, to consider at this time is that Hamas has no plans of disarming, and the implementation of the ceasefire ultimately might come apart, ultimately resulting in war in the near future. So it remains yet to be seen how the war, which is currently smoldering, will resume in the near future. But as we can see, there have been consistent violations of the ceasefire in place, namely Hamas's refusal to disarm within a reasonable time, and on top of that, to return the deceased hostages in a reasonable time and manner. And one would not be surprised, again, if Hamas ultimately returned the remains of bodies that were not the two deceased hostages remaining in the Gaza Strip. It's part of the power play, the psychological torture that Hamas inflicts on the Israeli people, and also part of its strategy to get away with as much as it can and to convey that it still retains power and control over the Gaza Strip.
All right, so requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some further updates from the Middle East. We're now learning that Egypt's State Information Service has denied that the country is coordinating with Israel to reopen the Rafah crossing for Gazans in the coming days. Now, as per reports, Israel has stated that it would open the Rafah crossing from Gaza to Egypt to allow residents to exit the Palestinian enclave in the coming days. Reports suggest that they had originally been preparing for the crossing's opening for pedestrians on the 14th of October after a similar announcement before the opening was delayed. Reopening the Rafah crossing is a part of US President Donald Trump's peace plan for the Palestinian territory, as well as something that UN agencies and other humanitarian actors have long called for. The Rafah crossing is a crucial entry point for humanitarian workers and for lorries transporting aid, food and fuel, which is essential for daily life in a territory which has been deprived of electricity. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Jordan Cope. So I wanted to understand from you, how do you interpret Egypt's stance as far as reopening the Rafah crossing is concerned? Israel has stated that it's just a matter of days now, and Egypt has come out and denied these reports.
A quick misconception: the Gaza Strip does have access to electricity. It might not be at previous levels, but it still does. Now, going back to your point regarding Egypt, Egypt is obviously very concerned about radical elements of Palestinian society being able to enter from the Gaza Strip into Egypt, perhaps those influenced by Hamas or Hamas ideology. The general rule for Egypt in terms of the Rafah crossing throughout this war is that migration towards Egypt is not allowed. It's the exception to the rule. And so Egypt might be publicly stating that it supports a two-way entry and exit system from the Rafah crossing, supposedly in support of Trump's ceasefire deal. One ultimately has to question, given Egypt's role as a mediator, why it took so long for the ceasefire deal to come about, and whether Egypt is actually genuine about the conditions that will potentially burden itself, given Egypt's strong stance against Palestinian migration towards Egypt in any way, shape, or form, even if it's actually not for people moving to live there. One must not forget that other Arab states in the Middle East have previously had issues in terms of Palestinian radicalism within their sovereign territories, such as Jordan. One must not forget Black September in the 1970s, when Palestinian radicals tried to ultimately seize the country, and as well as plotting terrorist attacks from its soil. And Jordan as well during this war has been very hesitant to accept Palestinians towards its soil as well.
All right, so with that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your analysis and insights with us on NewsX World. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus away from the Middle East towards what's transpiring in Europe. Germany has now expressed skepticism with regards to Russia's willingness to negotiate an end to the war with Ukraine. The German Foreign Ministry has welcomed all efforts to end the conflict, but stated that there were no signs that Russia was shifting towards negotiations. The statement has come after US President Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, left Moscow without any breakthrough on a potential peace deal. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Martin Saarez, International Affairs expert, joining us from Ecuador. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Of course, there are reports coming in that both the United States and Russia have not really seen eye to eye as far as the latest 5-hour conversation between Putin and Witkoff is concerned. But at the same time, we've seen statements by Kremlin that this is the first step, and yes, a lot of work is still left ahead. What, in your assessments, have been the sticking points as far as the conversation around this peace deal is concerned?
Thank you for having me here. First of all, we need to remember that Germany is after the US, is one of the biggest allies of Ukraine and the first one in the European Union. I think Germany is very skeptical about Russia's intention because they don't want this treaty to be two-sided. Germany wants Ukraine to be as important as the US and Russia in the decision and in the conclusion of this treaty or peace deal. Germany is afraid of basically giving the wrong message that Russia is winning the war, and this is an award for Russia's crimes in Ukraine. Germany wants to make sure that this deal will be absolutely balanced and that Ukraine will have at least the territories that they are fighting for, and that this will be balanced and not be unfair.
Indeed, and there was a lot of criticism from European allies that yes, this deal is tilted towards Russia. But it just seemed that the question regarding the territorial concessions by Ukraine is something that has emerged as a point on which both sides are not really, seeing eye to eye on at this point. Another main issue has been that of NATO-style security guarantees being provided to Ukraine. Russia, of course, maintains that it's one of the core issues, in fact, as far as these negotiations are concerned. Apart from this, we've also seen a visit, we're seeing in fact a visit right now by French President Emmanuel Macron to China. He is over there to not just discuss France and China's trade deficit, but also the fact that yes, China might not be directly supplying weapons to Russia. It is supplying dual-use items, whether it's fiber optic cables, it's the lithium-ion batteries that are then used to build drones to attack Ukraine. How effective, in your assessment, would Macron really be in dissuading Xi Jinping, as that is his aim? Because we do know that China is also the largest importer of Russian oil.
I don't think Macron's efforts to convince Chinese authorities to stop cooperating with Russia would be effective. Why? Because we're seeing that in the world, we're seeing a new Cold War. We're seeing a very strong bloc of countries like Russia and China that are cooperating together because they're feeling that the NATO is a threat to their interest, as well as we're seeing that NATO is becoming stronger. The US is trying to get people or countries together like the European Union to fight this threat. So basically, I don't think China will be convinced or will change their mind. I think they will not directly cooperate with logistics or directly cooperate in the Ukrainian war, but indirectly they will keep supplying Russia with the materials that they need to create these weapons in order to fight Ukraine. So I don't think Macron is going to do anything, and China will keep their support to their partners.
All right, sir, requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some other crucial developments as far as the war is concerned. We're now learning that Ukraine has launched another attack on Russia's Druzhba oil pipeline, this time in central Tambov region. This is according to a source in Ukraine's GUR military intelligence. This marks the fifth Ukrainian strike on the pipeline, which supplies Russian oil to Hungary and Slovakia. The attack, which was carried out using remote-controlled explosives, did not disrupt oil supplies, as Slovak and Hungarian operators confirmed that flows through the Druzhba remain normal. There was no immediate comment from Russia as well. Ukraine strikes on the pipeline, which are part of a broader strategy to target Russia's energy infrastructure, has, of course, come, as Kiev puts it, in retaliation for Russia's ongoing assaults on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Martin Saarez. What do you make of the strategy that is being employed by both Russia and Ukraine, even as negotiations and talks for a prospective peace deal are taking place? It does seem that kinetic action on the ground is still well underway.
I think this is a huge milestone in the developments of this bellic and economic war against Russia. I think the outcome will be catastrophic, in my opinion, because even though Ukraine did a huge damage to Russia, and it implies that Ukraine showed that they are strong and their army is strong enough to keep going with this war, this can be detrimental for the peace deal. First of all, this pipeline is one of the largest in the world. And second, it will affect directly to the European Union. This pipeline supplies the European Union too, so the European Union will be affected by this, and Ukraine is not taking in consideration their allies, and I think, in my opinion, it's unnecessary to cause this damage just to damage Russia while they're also damaging other countries that are actually allies. And indeed, this can cause a huge retaliation from Moscow, and it can just grow the tensions and not putting an end to this war. So I think it will be very catastrophic for the end of the war.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time, of course, sharing your perspectives and analysis with us on NewsX World. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus to some further updates. We're now learning that Somalis are expressing widespread anger after US President Donald Trump made a series of derogatory remarks about Somali immigrants in Somalia itself. Trump has accused Somalis of, quote, killing each other, unquote. These comments have drawn sharp condemnation across Mogadishu. Local residents called the language crude and unacceptable, with some urging the international community and Americans themselves to respond. Now, Trump's comments follow last week's shooting of 2 National Guard troops in Washington, after which he vowed to freeze migration from what he called third world countries. Remember, an Afghan national has been charged in that particular case and has pleaded not guilty. Somali Prime Minister Hamza Abdi Bare has stated that Trump has insulted other countries before and has suggested it may be best to ignore his remarks. Joining us on the broadcast is Major General Sudhakarji, International Relations and Strategic Defense Expert from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. As the Somali Prime Minister has pointed out, it's not the first time that Donald Trump has made such kind of remarks which are derogatory in nature, but this has caused quite a storm in Somalia, in the Somali community, within the United States of America as well. A large number of migrants stay in and around Minnesota. Does this really augur well for a head of state, that too, the head of the United States of America, to pass comments like this?
Certainly not, Pia. Good evening. Thank you for getting me for your show. Certainly not. Quick and short answer to your question is no, not at all. But then why get perturbed about a thing like this when he has been doing it for anyone and everyone, almost all the countries? And if a country like India, despite its clean record and despite the democratic norms and being the oldest, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, if he could and his associates and the team, they could call India as a laundromat, then I don't think Somalis have got any reasons to get disturbed about. So therefore, he doesn't also know what he's talking. So if you have time, I wish to dilate a couple of issues.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, back to you.
Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, so we need to understand things in the larger perspective. Why is he getting so perturbed about Somalis? Yes, there are a smaller segment there in Minnesota, and they had migrated after consequent to the troubles that erupted in Somalia. And we should do good to remember that Somalia as a country has been battling with a kind of a terrorist outfit which is called as Al-Shabaab, Shabaab, Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is the other name. It is an affiliate of Al-Qaeda. Now, who are the Al-Qaeda? So let's not forget that Osama bin Laden, who happened to be the head of the Al-Qaeda, who was neutralized in 2011, after a long search, they went hunting for him in Afghanistan, Iraq, all the places. They finally found being given shelter and sanctuary by the same country which was their ally, non-NATO major ally, Pakistan. So therefore, Al-Qaeda is a very dangerous component. They have penetrated into the American society. Penetration doesn't require physical penetration these days. Internet is good enough. Social media is good enough. The radicalization is far and wide, absolutely spread all over America today. They're in a very dangerous situation. Do you know one thing, Pia, if I may share, that this Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab, they have been trying to topple the central government of Somalia for it's almost more than 2 decades now. And they have been looting, they have been bombing, they have been killing people, they have been doing mayhem, atrocities, brutalities, all kinds of things in Somalia. So Somalia people, they have their own story. They are battling one aspect. Now the second thing is Donald Trump being president of a superpower, it will do good to him before he passes comments like this because it is not enough to rule his country. It is very much important to maintain the sanctity of a head of state and using such kind of unparliamentary kind of expression about another country because soon he may realize that he might have done for Nigeria. He did the same thing for South Africa as well. He did it for Canada. Canada is the neighbor. Did it for Mexico. Look at the backyard, what he is doing with Venezuela and Colombia. He's planning to attack Venezuela, Iraq-like operation. So he's a very unpredictable kind of commander. What I want to share with you or with the viewers through you or your platform is, does anyone know that the president of USA, as per the itinerary, Delhi itinerary, he is supposed to be briefed by the directors of important directorate, particularly the intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard is heading one, and we have Akash Patel and all these people. Perhaps people may not be knowing that as a president of the superpower or biggest democracy and the mightiest economy and military point of view, he doesn't listen to the intelligence update daily. He doesn't listen to them weekly or fortnightly. As per the standing procedure, he is supposed to be updated. There is a morning update. It doesn't happen if the president of a country who is taking decision based on feedback which is given by the vice president during they have a breakfast meeting. Okay, this is the schedule. I hope I am not incorrect in my feedback which has come to me. They have a breakfast meeting. It is J.D. Vance who gives the update to the president. So this is one thing, getting a direct input from the director of a particular vertical dealing with the subject who knows the pulse of the environment. Okay, and another thing for the vice president to hear all this and go and give a feedback to the president. He is not in full picture. This man will do good if he really introspect and carry out some kind of a self-analysis. Where is it taking America to? It's already being ruined 9 months down the line, and he's already into the 10th month. The midterm elections are around the corner in next 1 year time. And is the Republican, do they have any strength and stamina to now show or demonstrate some kind of a milestone which they had assured during the election campaign? No, he's not been able to show anything, be it the economy, be it anything of technology, be it the diplomatic skills or the military might. Nothing has actually come to the forefront which can be called as worthy of being called as superpowers, real might, military or the economic might, which is taking the global order in the positive and productive direction. Therefore, my only recommendation would be, in response to your question, not to get upset. This is his way of dealing. He is impulsive and he is transactional. And also remember, there is an acronym which Americans have given him, TACO.
Yes.
Trump always chickens out. So don't worry. Have your breath, have a good glass of water, enjoy your meal, and look after your country. And there are enough challenges in Somalia to actually, give you sleepless nights. Don't get unduly perturbed about what this man is saying. He's not left anyone, be it Putin, Xi, Narendra Modi, any person in the world. He needs people like, Munir to be on his lap for lunch, biryani lunch. Back to you, please.
All right. So with that, I'd like to thank you for taking our time, of course, putting all of that into context for our viewers and, of course, sharing your perspectives. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus to some further developments we're tracking. Former EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini is now facing a major corruption scandal. The European Public Prosecutor's Office has stated that Mogherini and two senior EU officials have been formally accused of procurement fraud, corruption, as well as conflict of interest and violating professional secrecy. Authorities detained all three on the 22nd as a part of a sweeping investigation into suspected fraud linked to EU-funded training programs for junior diplomats. They've since been released but are not considered flight risks. Investigators have carried out raids at the EU's diplomatic service in Brussels, the College of Europe in Bruges, and the suspects' homes as well. European Public Prosecutor's Office has stressed that all three remain presumed innocent pending trial in Belgian courts. Well, viewers, that's all we have for this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on News.